Hi. I'm just trying to clean up my bag a little. I sometimes just like throw stuff in here. So it's good to clean it up occasionally. All right, so today we're going to do the basket weave and couching. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start with the couching and then we'll do the basket weave. So we're gonna do couching down here. So what we're gonna do is draw a swirl. You can keep it going over here if you want. We're just gonna fill that little space with a swirl. Now, I have learned the correct way to do couching, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan. So you are in Heather's school of embroidery, and we are going to do it my way. Okay, so I'm gonna use 6 strands of the 4130 like we're doing on our edges, and this is what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do is take one strand out. If it's one strand, you can usually just pull it out like that. And I like to do that because it'll keep these ones still twisted together. And then we're going to tie them together. We want to take it out first and then tie them together because it makes it easier to separate. All right, and then we're gonna put this in our needle, all 6 strands. And then we're gonna come up. You can start, let's start on our edge because that'll be a little bit easier. Okay. And then we're gonna take our thread out of our needle. We're going to separate this single thread. And we're gonna put the single thread back in our needle. I know, it sounds crazy. I am aware that we sound a little nutty. Okay, so couching is your thread is on top and you're just like pinning it down so it stays in the shape that you want it. You can use couching, you can use multiple threads to couch your thread down. I'm just gonna use one. You don't see it as much when it's one as you do when it's multiple. So, all right. So what we're gonna do is this strand that has nothing connected to it is going to be on top of our thread. So what we're gonna do is just go back down with our single thread. And then as we work along this line, so I'm gonna kind of move this, let me zoom in. Okay, so we will just move this where we need it to go as we're working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up on my line. We're gonna do these fairly close together, okay? And we're gonna put this over here. And we're gonna go back down in that same hole or like right next to it. We don't want these to be pulled too tight because then it will make it look like jagged. We want this to be like a smooth circle, okay? So you can kind of, if you look really, really close, you can see that itty bitty stitch right here. So the whole point is to be able to make shapes without being able to see it being held down. So we're like trying to be secretive with these stitches. So I'm gonna come up here and then I'm gonna go back down. So like we want to keep this like snug, but you don't want to like pull it super tight. okay? We're just gonna do that all along it. Now, because we're using variegated threads, they're gonna be, once we're not using the same color, you'll be able to see the stitches that are holding it down. Are you going to go back down in the same hole you came up in? Yeah, I'm going up and down in the same hole. So I'm coming up. Whoops. So I'm coming up in the hole, and then I'm going over top of this thread, and I'm going back down in the same hole. If you want to go down next to the hole, you totally can. You don't have to use the same one if that makes you feel uncomfortable or something. I don't know. But the closer these are, it'll be like more rounded. I am like super zoomed in, so everything is like looks a little crazy. So you can always like pull that a little bit if you need it to be in a different spot. What in the world is going on down here? I didn't pull it all the way through. That's what. So now that it's like changing colors, you can kind of see the couching a little bit more, but that's fine. We just want it like as discreet as possible is the point. But then look at how smooth that curve is. Kind of takes a minute, but now as this swirl gets tighter, you're gonna want your stitches closer together. Sorry, I'm jumping on late. How many strands are you using for each? So I'm using 6 total. I would rewatch from the beginning. I'm using 6 total. So this thicker part is 5, and I'm couching it down with 1. But it's all tied together on the back. So go back and watch the first couple minutes. But with couching, you can definitely use more or less. I mean, you could use 1 strand and couch it down with 1 strand. Like you can do whatever you want. Or 3 and 3 or 4 and 2 or whatever. And it feels really weird to like have this thread that's just like not on a needle. It's just like hanging out on top of your fabric, but it's okay. We'll bring it down below in a little bit. But this could be fun for like lettering, some fancy lettering. It's kind of a lot of work for small spaces. Okay, so I'm gonna leave my single strand at the bottom. I'm done couching with that. So I'm gonna leave that down on the bottom. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. put these 5 strands back in and I'm going to go down in this same hole that I used. Look how cute that is. Okay, and then we're going to tie them off. See, look on the back. Just our single strand, you can see it going in that swirl. So I'm going to add this single thread back in. Oh, it's shorter though. It will be shorter. See the length difference because we used more of the single. So I'm just going to cut that. And then we'll tie this off. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. Oh shoot, it got stuck to my thumb. Okay. So I'm gonna come over here and just tie this off. Okay. So there's our practice. So if you want to practice with like different thread counts, like 3 and 1 or whatever, because we're going to come over here and do this greenery next with the couching. So you can kind of, if you think you want to use like more strands or less strands, because right now you can't, I mean, you can see where it's held down, but it's not like blurringly obvious unless you're like looking at it. So depending on what you want to do, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do 5 and 1 for the green. Look at this. My kids or the cats or somebody made the biggest mess of this, and I am very unhappy. I saw it and I was like, ah! Who is touching my things? Okay. Knots and linen. I'm about to start this again. So if you want to see what I did in the beginning, I will show it again. Like how I went from 1 to how I'm using them. Okay, so what I'm doing first is I'm taking out a single strand. And if it's a single strand, usually you can just like pull it and it'll kind of bunch up like that. But then these 5 will stay twisted together. So now I have my single strand and my 5 strands, and I'm going to tie them together. But separating them makes it easier when you're on top of your thread. This is going to be way too long. I should have made this shorter. I didn't really think about it. Okay. Gotta get them back in my needle. You're blaming Leo. I blame Leo too. That's our male cat. And he is a menace. Okay, so I'm putting all 6 strands back into my needle. But do you see how this one like stays separated? So then I can get all my threads on top where I want them. So I'm gonna start up here. And then I'm going to take all of these threads back out of my needle. So we're doing a lot of threading our needles today. And then I'm going to get that single piece. See how it's separate from the rest. And I'm going to thread my needle with just the single. and then I can start couching. Okay. So this first one is just going to be right at the top where we want that to stay. And then these ones can be a little bit further apart because it's like a fairly straight line at the top, and then it'll curve on the edges. That is not very consistent. Hold on. I have been excited for this day because I don't use couching very much, and so it's kind of fun to do it. Plus, the basket weave that we're going to do next is one of my favorites. You see, I should have done these a little closer together. Or maybe I'm pulling them too tight or something. This is way too long. Learn from me. Don't do yours that long. Like, this is what I normally stitch with, like a stitch length for me, but it's way too long for this stitch. Shorter pieces of threads, friends. I am kicking myself. So these greens, this piece that I'm using is, I must have started right when they were changing colors, so you'll be able to see this couching. Where it wasn't as noticeable with the brown. Okay, so we're gonna go tack that down. All right, so I'm going to take this single thread out of the needle. I'm going to rethread these 5 strands and put that back down, and then we'll do the next little curly Q. Whoop, I pulled that too tight. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here, and then I'll grab my single thread. There's like a lot of threads going on, so just be aware. So if this is feeling a little too stressful, then feel free to use a stem stitch would be great, or a whipped back stitch, or a split stitch. We did the stem stitch and the split stitch on the stem on the top, and we did the whipped back stitch for the yellow on here. Or you can wait and see if there's another stitch that you like better. Definitely feels easier when the threads are all going the same way. Alright, we're going to need to make some smaller stitches so that that can start to curl. Whoop. All right, one more. Okay, we're gonna leave that single strand in the back and rethread our 5 strands and take them to the back. For someone that doesn't like threading needles, that's me. To thread an awful lot of needles for this stitch. Where did my go? Way too long of a thread piece. All right, we're gonna come back up here. And then rethread our single piece. I have 2 needles on, one with the 5, one with the 1. Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't even think of that. If you have 2 needles, that is an excellent suggestion. Then you don't have to thread as often as I am. Next time. I don't use couching very much, so I just have never really looked for ways to make it simpler. All right, so I didn't draw it quite that curly, but I'm just gonna arch it over here. That one does not seem tight enough. Oh, that's because there's a knot. Okay. I'm like, why is that not tightening? Hold, please. We have a knot situation. Knots happen to the best of us. All right, what is going on here? Taking out a couple of these stitches for a second. Oh man, there's like a true knot in my thread. Dang it. Oh, maybe it's not. Okay, it was a slip knot. All right. Stinking knots. I hate knots. All right, that is way better. I knew something had to be going on. It was struggling. All right, how do I want this to sit? I think I kind of want it to be the same as this side, so I'm just gonna I think I'm gonna end it there. Okay. How do we feel about couching? I don't even know if I've ever taught couching before now that I think about it. I can't remember. All right, I'm gonna reed thread all 6 so that I can tie this off. Yeah, we do love it. Haha, there we go. I think it's fun to do some funky stitches that we wouldn't normally do. Every so often. Gosh, I can't get these threads in the needle. One more time here. Nope. Again. There we go. Okay. So I don't like to tie off on these tiny pieces, so I'm going to bring my needle up here to where there's like a thicker piece and tie it off on that. Alrighty. There we have it. Oh, let's turn it over so we can see. It's so cute. We still have to fill these in. That's coming another day. But we're going to do some basket weave, and then we're going to do a basket weave on this sunflower center. So we're going to do the basket weave up here. So basket weave is just like it sounds. We're going to weave it so it looks like a basket. Okay, so we're going to work on a grid. The closer together these are, the harder it is to weave. I'm just throwing that out there. But the closer together, the cooler it looks. So we're going to work in perpendicular lines. So these ones are going to cross this way. All right, so get your 6 strands of 4130. That's what we're gonna work with. Let's do it. All right. So we're going to do all of the lines going one direction first, and then we'll work the other way. So I'm going to do my knot up here so it's kind of out of the way. Well, let's do it on an end. We're going to do it right here. And we're just going to go down on this side. And then we're going to come up over here and do this line. Now, we want to make sure that these lines are straight. So feel free to like lay this down and make sure that these lines are parallel. And then we're just going to come down right there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So these stitch lengths should be the same as these stitch lengths. And then I just want to make sure that those are parallel. Now, you could come back down here and do the next line if you wanted, but I feel like these are far enough apart that you don't have to. Just keep that distance between them the same. And don't grab any threads of the chain stitch. Okay, we're gonna lay that down. We're doing knots today, apparently. So I'm doing these ones a little bit further apart, but when I do them down on the sunflower, I'm gonna do them a little closer together. So if you wanna kind of see the difference, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently below, just closer together. So, all right. So there's our first direction, and then we're gonna weave now. Okay, so I'm gonna come on this end, and we've got stitches around, so we're gonna have to be careful. So we're gonna go just over, under. So we're gonna go over this first one, under the second one, and over the third one. And then we're gonna go down right there. And then we're gonna go the other way. And we want to keep these stitches the same as these stitches. So like the distance between them. Now, this one on this side, we went over this one up here. Let me zoom in. Okay, so we went over on this time. So our next spot over, we want to go under. And then same thing. This one we did under on this one. So the next spot over, we're going to go under, over. And just be careful that you don't snag the threads around it. So do you see, like this one's over and this one's on this line here is over this strand and under this one. So that will keep your basket weave looking like a basket weave. If you don't keep them like that, then it won't look like a basket weave. So this one was over, so this one needs to be under. And I'm doing the same thing as I was doing on other stitches when I'm weaving, is I'm pushing from behind. Can you see that movement? That's me pushing my finger so that I can like lift that needle up so it can go over the next one. Okay, so this one we're gonna go under, so this one we would go over. Then we're gonna go under and over. And if you can only do one at a time, like if you need to pull your needle through before you go to the next one, then that's totally fine. I usually do a couple and pull it through a couple. Like if I have like a big space that I'm doing a basket weave in. All right, we're gonna go down there. I'm just gonna do one more on this edge. All right, so we went over here, so we're gonna go under. And on the edge is the hardest because your threads don't have like a whole lot of give. So I usually do one at a time there. And then we're gonna go under on this end and push that from the back to get it around that chain stitch. Okay. That was a lot of brown. I was hoping more of the pink would pop out, but that's okay. So cute. I love basket weave. Okay. So that is that. Let us change our thread colors and we will do it in our flower center now. Flower centers are one of my favorite places to do a basket weave. All right, so our flower center is gonna be the same as this one. So we're gonna pull out our 4135 and all 6 strands. I don't think I've ever done a basket weave with less than 6 strands. I know some people have. It makes it kind of like less puffy, but I like it. All right, so I'm not gonna draw lines this time. I'm just gonna do these a little bit closer together. Let me move this a little so I can see it in front of me instead of through the camera. Okay, so I think it's gonna be easier to weave this way because there's less strands in the way, like weave like my needle going this way. So I'm gonna do these lines first because I think I'm gonna draw lines. I lied to you all. I'm drawing the lines. I want them a little bit closer together this time because it'll fill that space a little bit more. Okay. Those are not very straight. Okay, I feel better. I do like the lines drawn. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the end here. And then just make sure you go to the very edge of your like drawn circle. It's kind of going to be the same as we did up here. Like if it's not super circular like you were wanting, you can always like stem stitch on the edge, which I have done so many times with this center. All right, we want that. See, I think I want them a little closer together. Hold on. That's gonna move it over just a tiny bit. I missed it. Which section did you do the practice? Oh, it's up here in the corner. I wanted them kind of separated, so I did it up here, and then we'll do it down here on the flower. See, that's a little bit closer. Then that will fill that space a little bit more. You're welcome. All right, so this one is gonna have to be like right here. So while my lines are guides, they are not like the end all be all. So if you draw lines in there and then you end up not quite using them, it's okay. They're still there as like a guide of where we're going with things. So you could even do these like as close together as you want. It just, once they get really close together, they're just really hard to weave around. It's possible and it's totally doable and it looks fabulous. It's just a little bit harder to be able to see where you're weaving. So if this is the first time you're doing a basket weave, I would recommend a little further apart to at least practice and then decide if you think you can do them closer together. There is a fly in my house that is bothering me. Get out of here. And especially where we have like all these stitches around it, we want to make sure you can not mess up the stitches around it. Okay. Are we ready to weave it? So when I'm doing a circular space, I generally start in the middle. I don't know why, but it seems to work best for me because I can kind of figure out what I'm doing before I'm like to an edge. So, and I almost always start with my first one over and then work from there. Oh, I keep grabbing threads on this one. And sometimes I'll like use my nail to like hold on to that needle and push it out a little bit further so I don't grab. Oh shoot, look right here. I missed this thread. So I'm just gonna grab that one more to go under. Okay, so now I need to figure out like where I want to put this down because it's going to be my guide for all the stitches around it. So that's the direction these ones are going to go. All right. Now, since these are a little bit closer, I think I'm going to go back over here to do a second one. Just because I feel like it, I guess. All right. So I'm going to go under this first one. And then we'll just go every other one. Now we're getting some red in there. Oh, see? Right here I snagged the orange. Just back that needle out. Okay, happens to the best of us. All right, now where it's like going over, you can kind of push those up so it's where you want it to sit and then go down. They're not quite where I want them. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna go next to it. Right there. Gosh, these ones are really close together. It's all right, I've already started it. I'm just gonna keep going with that. All right, so this one's over, so I need to start with an under. My fingers work better going this other way. So I can pull that through all of them at once. Okay, I'm gonna go down right there. No, I'm not. This one is an under, so I'm gonna stick my needle like under it to go down. And then I'll come down here and do this last one at the bottom. This direction is just not quite the right angle for me. Okay, so there's still a little bit of space right here. So I'm gonna do one more stitch. So this one is an under. It's super hard to see, but I went over it here, so I would go under it. So I'm gonna start just right next to it like I went under it. And then that one's over, that one's under. And this one's an under. Ooh. We're doing some kind of involved stitches today. Just the two though. Okay. And then we'll come up and finish this part. Okay, so we're gonna go over and then under. Squish those together. There might not be a rhyme or reason, but I'm coming back over on this side because I like stitching that way better. I feel like I have a little bit more control, so. Being right-handed, maybe left-handed people would have an easier time going the other direction. Or if you're holding your hoop in your hand, you can move it to where it's most comfortable. Because we want to not be grabbing any threads. And once we start to get to the end, like it starts to get a little tighter, it's a little harder to pull that through. So just make things a little easier on yourself when you can. All right, we've got, I think we can just fit one more in there. Right here. This one's an under. Okay. Woo! We did it. Now, if your edge is feeling a little rough, I think this is fine. But if it's feeling a little rough, go ahead and stem stitch it like we did on this. I did it on the video with this one with the satin stitch. But look how fun that is with the variegated threads. I love it. So you can kind of, let me zoom out so you can see like this one, how much like negative space there is compared to this one. Like this one is a lot tighter. So there's a lot less negative space. You can have no negative space. If I had done the lines going this way a little closer together, there would be no negative space, but you can kind of see like little spaces around them. But yay! What do we think? Do we like that? I think it's cute. I think I'll do, here, I'll just stem stitch it really quick so you can kind of see. And then if you want to do it, you can. And if not, then that's fine too. So I'm just going to start down here. And I'm going to use the same holes as the basket weave because then it'll sit right up next to it. You could also just like back stitch around this. You don't have to do a stem stitch, but I like a stem stitch because it works really well with curves and it looks pretty. So I'll post like on my stories with the stem stitch and without because I like it without this time, I think. So I'm going to take this out and I'll take a picture before I do that. Super cute, yay! It's such a fun center, especially I think like for sunflowers because sunflowers have that like such a textured center with all those seeds that I think that this is just really fun for sunflower centers. Now, sometimes there's not space for them, like if I'm doing a smaller sunflower, but if I have the space, I like to do them. See, it kind of just gives it like that finished look. So if you like that, you can totally finish it if you want to. Okay, friends, that is it for me today. So tomorrow we will just do, two of the like sampler pieces. That is like so blurry. Anyways, we will just do 2 of the side pieces, so we won't do any of the center tomorrow. So if you're feeling a little behind, don't worry, you'll have a little extra time tomorrow. The video tomorrow will be a little bit shorter. So let me know if you have questions once you get started working on this, and I will see you back tomorrow. Bye.